Hello, and good morning. Welcome to the Queer Vision podcast. I'm Becca, and soon Coe and Sean will be jumping on. We will be talking about Sean. We will be interviewing him about his life, about his politics, about his views on life. He's a writer, so a little bit about inspiration there, a little on cancel culture. We talked about pretty much everything. It was very, very enlightening. It was a great conversation, and I really thoroughly hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Have a really good day and enjoy this episode.
I am Coe Star, Coe of Kanekalon. This is
I'm Becca, and we're here with.
I'm Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
So the way that we do this a lot of times is we kind of just get on here and like chit chat and delve into things. We don't really have like a set list of like questions or anything. We just kind of see where the conversation takes us. So I guess just to like start out, just tell the viewers a little bit about you, about like the things that you do with InQlusion, just the little blurb, I guess, that you would give someone.
My elevator pitch, if you
Yes.
will.
Exactly.
Yes. So my name is Sean. I'm board chair for InQlusion Inc., which is a nonprofit 501c3 based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. We work explicitly with the queer community. So our mission is to present inclusive programming that empowers and uplifts people in the queer community. So we do that in a lot of ways. We have a gender-affirming clothing closet. We host a trans expo event every year that you guys were at this year. We offer one-on-one financial literacy courses for folks that may need that. We host collective conversations where community members just get together and talk about important topics. And we also do a monthly community walk. So anyone that just wants to enjoy some time outside can meet us. And we just walk and talk and build community. So that's one piece. I'm also a graduate student at UNCG, finishing up in December. And I have never been more excited about finishing something in my entire life. But all of my graduate research is centered on queer issues, queer culture. I really love drag history. You guys may know it's hard to study anything in queer history without studying all of queer history because it's all connected. So I do that, and I also write and work a full-time job, and am married and have a lot of animals. So that's me in a nutshell.
Love that. That's very, yeah. I'm very much the same, like have 20 million things going on. When you said that, I was like, relatable.
Same. Same.
And I feel like, sadly, like the nature is like, also is like starting stuff like this too in the areas that we're in. I feel like that's often kind of just where it is, especially at the beginning. It definitely is something that I feel like is a calling for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How long have you been involved with, or how long has InQlusion existed?
So we incorporated in July of 2023. And it it was never intended to be a nonprofit or in the first place. I've always wanted to do that, but it was not intended to happen in the middle of graduate school by any means. But it started with an idea that I had and sent out to Facebook to just host a holiday meal for folks in the community who may not have anywhere to go around Christmas. And I got a handful of friends that were interested in helping. And while we met to plan this meal, somebody said, "How hard would it be to incorporate?" Because we might be able to get like some donations or sponsorships from some places. And I'm naive, and I thought it won't be that hard. No big deal. Let's do that. So I did that, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It is not a walk in the park.
Yeah, there are a lot of rules with nonprofits, aren't there?
There are so many. And yeah, I mean, we obviously you can't like be super involved in like endorsing candidates and stuff like that as a nonprofit. Being a queer nonprofit, that is really hard.
Yeah.
I want to take to InQlusion social medias often to talk about candidates and whatever. So we have to toe a very fine line when we're talking about social and political issues. But obviously, those issues are very important to our community, especially now. So we want to address them, but we have to do that without crossing any lines, you know? So,
Yeah, that's a large portion of why I at least didn't want to turn Queer Alina into a nonprofit. I mean, partially money, partially rules. We don't really have enough people to have a board, things like that. Like we're just not even close to that. But also just like we need to be able to be political. Like both of us, we can't shut up.
it's hard for me too. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're friends with me on Facebook.
Yep.
You see, I am here for the shenanigans.
Exactly.
Am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm biting a hole through my tongue. It's just I curse. That's just who I am as a human being. Fantastic.
So what's your favorite thing about your journey so far? You're like with inclusion, with grad school, with you do publication stuff. So like what's your favorite?
um. Well, I feel like the the foundation for all of these things is pretty much the same, I think. And that's just a passion for being involved with the queer community, talking about queer issues, empowering queer people, uplifting queer voices. It's just coming from a small southern town who didn't even know there were other gay people in the whole wide world until I was a teenager. It's always just been really important to me to get that in front of people. You know, there's somebody somewhere, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're saying, that somebody needs to hear. And that's kind of the mission for all of these things. Going into going into college in the first place, I wanted to be a social worker, and I kind of realized quickly that I don't have the emotional bandwidth or stability to do that work.
Uh-huh.
So I always loved writing. I always loved learning. So it made sense to me to go into sociology, which is writing intensive. I also love people. So like the research component. If I my research specialty is qualitative research. So I love doing that, and it allowed me to write. It allowed me to research and learn more about my community, and um, writing fiction does that for me too. I just published my first book, which is a queer mystery book, and all of the main characters are queer. Um, and I made a commitment through writing fiction that all of my queer characters were going to be strong. None of them are going to be the villains. None of them are going to die. Um, none of them are going to be centered on shitty circumstances and experiences, because I want to put strong queer characters in front of people. Um, so really none of these things are really my favorite. I think they all kind of represent a different part of my life. And they're also separate. I mean, it's a different experience writing academically than writing a mystery book. And I get to kind of exercise both parts of my brain in that regard. And then, inclusion allows me to be in the community and to connect with people and get to know folks and build community and all those things. So that's a very long way to say I have no clue what the answer to your question is.
It sounds like you have a good, I don't know if you've ever heard of like, there's this Japanese philosophy called Ikigai. So it's essentially like the intersection of like what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you enjoy.
Mm.
It's like this whole thing, but it sounds like just hearing you talk about your life as a whole, like you already kind of have that Ikigai thing. So like the thing that kind of pulls you together, like, cause I feel like just listening to you talk, like yours would be more like, community building and visibility.
Mhm.
And so like all of your other things that you do just branch off from community building and visibility. Um, and yeah, I think that's really powerful when people find that. And that really is how you find the most success in life, I feel like, and happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it comes with part of it has come with age. I mean, and in a few years I'll be 40, and that's not old by any means, but it's old enough to have experienced enough to kind of realize what doesn't make me happy and what does make me happy.
Uh-huh.
Um, So part of that comes with experience, but it's only been the past couple of years that I've really started to accept. I think this is one of the key components, because I think especially for queer people and really any marginalized group of people, we all want to do all the things. We want to advocate in every way we can advocate, but all of the forms of activism and advocacy are not for everyone. So realizing what role I can play, and what role I want to play, has been a tough journey, and it's been a lot of trial and error, and sometimes writing, or, you know, being in the community holding an event for inclusion or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't feel like enough, but it's what I've got. These are the skills that I have that I want to use to better my community. And only in the past couple of years have I started to really realize that's enough. Like, I can play my part while other people are playing their parts, and that's perfectly fine. So yeah, but I love this. You're gonna have to send me the word that you're saying.
Yeah, I'll have to. There's a whole book on it and everything.
I want to write it down too, because now I want to find mine.
It's very, very interesting. It's one of the few books that I've actually like forced myself to read front to back, because I'm very much not a reader at all. But yeah, it's really good.
At all.
Well, like, I love a good
If
audio
there was
book.
any question, I'm not even reading your text message.
Honestly, if you looked at my phone, the 900 unread messages would confirm.
No, honestly, yeah, I'm really bad about it too. Yeah. No, Rebecca sent me a message on Facebook at one point, and I responded like 2 days later, and I was like, sorry, I'm just seeing this.
See, I'm the opposite. I have to, like, as soon as I see it, I have to respond, or I'll forget everything exists, and then I feel like a really shitty person. So, because I'm like, no, I forgot about you, and then that makes me feel like you're gonna think I actually forgot about you and not just what you said, right? So I'm the exact opposite. Also, definitely a reader. So we're opposites. It's okay.
Not to be like a little astrology girly, but what are your like
What's your
zodiac
big three, if you know your big three?
I have no idea.
You have like not even the main one?
When's your birthday?
It's March 29th. Before the restructuring of astrology apparently happened, I was an Aries, and I don't know if I still am, but
yeah, you're an Aries.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. Me too.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
I can see it.
I'm a Virgo.
The sheer look of shock on your faces when I said I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, it's because we're obsessed with it. So like everyone we talk to, we're like, okay, what's your big three? Okay, this makes sense why you act like this and why you do that. And
I also feel like in queer culture in general,
it is very prominent.
It is rare that queer people are like, you know what? I don't even think about astrology.
Yeah.
So go you.
That is true. A few years ago during the pandemic, when everybody had way too much fucking time on their hands, I was still in school. I feel like I've been in school since the day I was born. That's how long this journey feels. I've been in school for 37 years. But I was in school, and I was taking a world religions course. And I went through this existential crisis, I guess. I don't know, but it resulted in like a complete deconstruction from all religion. And what happened in that process was I also deconstructed from like pretty much all supernatural belief. Like, I was really big into supernatural stuff, like ghosts and things like this. And I don't know, I just walked out of all of it. And astrology kind of went with all of that, I guess, because I did used to pay more attention. Like, I would read my horoscope and stuff like that. But I don't know. It just all went out the window.
Do you ever do like personality quizzes and stuff? Because I feel like that's how I view the zodiac stuff, is like a personality quiz. So like, do you ever do those, like the colors test or the Myers-Briggs or anything like that?
I've done 170 of those things in school. But I don't remember like the results of any of them.
Okay, so this is where the Virgo comes in. Now I tell you, next time you take a quiz like that, you screenshot it and put it in a specific folder that says personality, and you'll never forget your own personality.
Not like you could just be so. Never mind. You have to be self-aware enough who you are.
I mean,
Okay.
it may be good to provide like an explanatory apparatus or something, for when I'm acting ridiculous and I don't know why. I mean, you
I
know.
think there is like with those kind of things, definitely a healthy line that you have to
Oh yeah.
walk. And a lot of people get way too like into it. So I can definitely understand like just distancing from all of it
Hmm.
because it's very easy to be like, oh, this is why I'm acting like XYZ and I'm just going to continue to act this way because this thing says this when like
Yeah.
in reality we all have that in our own hands too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, I think, and this comes from very personal experience. So if anyone is listening, don't feel offended by the point I'm about to make. But in my experience, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and I don't know what you guys know about Pentecostals, but they are hellfire and brimstone denomination of Christianity. And it's it's very much like there's always an there's always an excuse for something. Like there's always like I can do whatever the hell I want to do, and then God is going to forgive me, so you should too. Um, and that kind of foundation, and I guess to your point, like when people use really anything like astrology or whatever to excuse bad behavior, like that's so, and I hate to use this word, but like it's it's the right word to use here. It's so triggering for me. Because I heard so much of that growing up. These similar just excuses for shitty behavior. um, so I'm like, no, you didn't do that because you're a Libra. You did that because you're an asshole, or you did that because you made a bad decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I have a tough time with it.
That's
I get
fair.
that.
That's fair. I did that kind of actually like blends into the a question that I had earlier that I forgot until just now. So you are very community based, right? So it seems like you like have some level of just like wanting to be around community and wanting to help community enjoy life, right? But then you also have this education portion. And I just want to know, like, is your education for like queer people? You're like, hey, here's some more education for you to learn about your community, or is it also for like people that don't know anything about queer people? Like, how do we reach out to people who don't really know what it's like to be queer and are completely oblivious, probably hypocritical about it, if we're being honest, probably jerks sometimes to people. How do we reach those people that do use their experiences as an excuse? Like, that was a roundabout way of not actually coming up with a question, but do you get what I'm
Um, yeah, I'm among my people. I can tell. So yeah, first of all, I feel like there are a couple of components of your question. So I'm going to address what I think are the components of the question. So, first of all, I think my education is one, it is very much a labor of love. I graduated high school barely. Um, you know, so when I was 17, I didn't come out to my family. I was outed to my family by a nosy ass community member. And that was a pretty tumultuous period. As a teenager, I was drinking a lot. I was smoking a lot of weed, doing things I should not have been doing as a teenager. So it was really a miracle that I even graduated high school. But it never occurred to me when I was younger that I would go to school. It just like that was never a possibility for me. And I feel like that's the case with a lot of young queer people. Like we just don't envision futures for ourselves. So I just didn't. And when I wanted to go back, a lot of that was just, like I said, I wanted to be a social worker and I wanted to work with queer youth specifically. But I think that was more about me and kind of wanting to show up for younger people the way I wish someone had showed up for me. So it quickly became a labor of love. Like I want to do this because I want to prove to myself that I can do it. And two, it became, okay, but what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with your knowledge? Realistically speaking, you're going to get a master's degree in sociology, and what are you going to do with that? And what I want to do, yes, is partially to educate people in our community. I feel like queer people should always be trusted insofar as like we know what hurts us. We know that these systems of oppression exist and that they are heavy on our shoulders, right? We know what the microaggressions look like. We know all of those things, but a lot of queer people don't have the conceptual resources to talk about it. Um, so like I feel like that's one mission with my education is to help educate other queer people and say, look, you're right that that thing is going on, and maybe here's how we can talk about it. Here's how we can address it, right? And then part of it is for other people outside of the community. I've been able to have a lot of productive conversations with folks who are not in the queer community. I've been able to help them understand some of the challenges that queer people face, in the past couple of years, specifically trans people. And it's people in my life know, my colleagues at work know, my family knows what I'm studying, what I'm interested in. And I get a lot of folks that just ask me questions. And I really feel like if I had not pursued education, that I would not be able to speak as intelligently with these people about these issues as I would without it. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of reasons that I'm using education. Now, as far as how to reach people outside of the community, that's a tough question. um, because we're talking, I think, largely about people who don't want to be reached. Um, and really, I don't know that it's productive. Um, I don't know that it's and I'm really thinking of like the Trumpers, right? Like I'm
Uh-huh.
thinking about MAGA. There are conservative people that I have had productive conversations with. So I think often we say Republicans and we kind of group everybody in. Now, don't get me started on if you voted for him versus you didn't, and whether like you're hardcore MAGA or not. Like
Uh-huh.
it's indistinguishable to a degree, right? Like you're still responsible for the shit show that we're in. But there are some, the point I'm making, I guess, is that there are some who are reachable and some who are not. That I think there is a difference between MAGA and conservative people when it comes to how we can communicate with people. And I think that's an important distinction to make because if you got a MAGA person, it's not going to be a productive conversation.
Mhm.
If you just have a conservative person, and I work with a couple that I've had some really productive conversations with. Um, if you're just talking about a conservative person, then you might be able to effectively communicate with those people. I think the bigger thing is to work in our local communities and attack or address, rather, the systems themselves. I think that's where the biggest change is going to come from.
Mhm.
We're not going to make a whole lot of change arguing with people on the internet. it's,
Yeah.
it's
Valid.
been proven time and time and time again. That doesn't stop me from doing it sometimes, but but that's not what's going to make the change. The change is going to come from building community, building strong communities, um, and putting a focus on mutual aid and addressing systems that way, uplifting and empowering the most vulnerable people in our communities so that they can join us in the community and in our activism and advocacy work. Um, yeah, again, a really long roundabout way of answering your question.
And
Maybe
to be
put
fair, there was no question. So
you gave me a stage to just talk.
Yeah.
um actually I did just remember when you were talking about that a little bit, there was something that Arden had mentioned that you were doing that you might be looking for people for something educational, something.
Yeah, so because I'm a glutton for punishment. Yeah, I didn't mention at the beginning, I also do drag, and I don't do it a ton right now because life, but I've been doing drag since 2007, and in the past couple of years, it's become increasingly important to me to preserve drag history. And I'm specifically looking at North Carolina. So, what I'm starting to do in June and July, I'm going to start just conducting interviews with every drag queen that I can get my paws on, and recording them, transcribing them, and just I don't know. I don't know how I plan to archive these things. I There's probably going to be some blogs. There will probably be a book that emerges from this. It may be a podcast series. I don't know. But the goal, even if they just sit on my laptop or if I send them to an archival place, the goal is to preserve this history.
Mhm.
We last year we lost an icon in the Greensboro Winston drag community, and he had been sick for a long time, and we knew that it was coming, but it was still a shock. And he knew the most about local drag than any other person I have ever met. And it really settled when I heard that he passed. I never took the time to really sit down with him and hear what he had to say. I listened to his stories at the bars and, um, he came to my apartment a few times back in the day and, he told me some stories then, but I really regret not sitting down and taking more time to have that conversation. And he really inspired this project because I didn't want more of our elders and more of our community members to pass without preserving as much of this history as possible. So yeah, that's kind of the project. Um, Once I graduate, so like I said, I'll be doing interviews in June and July of this year. But once I graduate next year, I'll hit it full throttle.
Do
And
you have like a little flyer or something like that we can share with people? Because I mean, obviously, Koei is
Yeah.
in the drag community, so
yes. So not yet. I'm working on it. My semester just ended. Hallelujah. So I'm gonna finish getting my scheduling tool together. And because I am a good graduate student, I am also including a consent form. So I've got to finish getting the consent form ready because I really want this to be official research, right?
okay.
I don't want anyone to look at this project and like interpret it as amateur or I don't want anything to do with that because it's just some queen talking to queens or whatever. um so yeah, all of that will be ready sometime this month, probably in the next couple of weeks, since I'm starting in June.
If you're wanting to take it like, which I don't know if you were wanting to just do like the Winston, Greensboro area, but if you are wanting to do all of North Carolina, yeah, for sure, let me know because I know quite
Mhm.
a few people that would love to do something like that, and like a few of them we've already had on the podcast too. So
Yes. Yeah, no, all of North Carolina. Yeah,
Period.
everybody.
That's so exciting. I love that.
Thanks. I'm excited too. A little nervous.
It's definitely
Don't be
like,
nervous.
yeah, I would be nervous. It's definitely like what we, kind of started Queer Lina on to, and like what made us really want to do like the podcast and the magazine was just to, I mean, the visibility and documenting what we can document because it is insane to me, especially like just how like, especially in the drag community, how undocumented like all of it is and how nobody really knows what the real drag community is like until you like actually step foot at like a drag show or a drag bar and then all the intricacies of it and the politicalness even within the drag community. There's just so many layers that you can't just understand from like seeing RuPaul's Drag Race. And a lot of people just see that and then they're like, that's drag. And like, no.
Yeah. You said a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Drag to me, first of all, there's all kinds of drag, and Winston-Salem in the past several years has seen this alt drag scene kind of emerge, which I love. I love it so much. I'm more of a traditional drag queen, like I like glamour, I like being pretty and whatever. Alt drag still involves some of that, but it also involves like just some craziness, and it's unhinged in the best fucking way, and I love that so much. But it really has also started to occur to me, like to your point, how undocumented all of these different types of drag are. The most documented types of drag are the kind of drag I do. In my heyday when I was competing for pageants and whatever, like the Q notes. If you guys are familiar with Q notes, yeah, and the what's the other one called? The front page, maybe.
There's a few. There's I have like 10 of them downloaded if I'm being honest because I kept losing what the name was and so I just downloaded them all. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, valid. But yeah, I mean, these publications were reporting like on pageants and stuff like that. So like I can go and find my name, my drag name somewhere in one of these publications. But what about the girls who are not winning pageants or even doing them? What about the girls who are not being booked in shows but are just showing up to talent shows or like open mic nights or whatever? Like those people still have experiences that need to be told, right? Because they contribute to the bigger picture of what drag is. And I hate I hate the way drag is talked about, or certain types of drag are revered over others. We all have our specific interests, I guess, Like I have a soft spot for old school drag, like that 80s, 90s, early 2000s drag. I love that shit. And to me, like you can't get any better than that. But I still really love alt drag and I love bearded drag. And, one of my close friends does whiteface drag. Well, he's kind of retired now, but I mean, all of these forms deserve to be acknowledged and those experiences deserve to be told. So anyway, yes, I want to talk to everybody,
Yes.
all of the people.
That is definitely something which I've just been talking about more recently, and being like more of an alt performer is definitely, I've like, seen the divide somewhat in like local communities. But also at the same point, it comes from both sides, right? There are people on the more traditional side of drag that's like, oh, I hate alt drag. That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? There's alt people on the alt side of drag that are like, oh, she's just like a pageant queen. She's an old school queen. She's going to judge me for everything I do. And I definitely see both of that. And I love, at least in Raleigh, I see there's a little bit of merging happening, slowly but surely. Like more of the alt performers are getting booked at the more traditional like bars and spots. So it's happening. I think people are starting to recognize, okay, it can be more than this one format. I'm really grateful for that.
and I feel like you're a part of that now because we were just talking about that with the upcoming Battle of Kanekalon, where
Yeah.
like it is more of an alt show, but at the same time there's a queen there that's more traditional, right? And I think it's gonna be fun to experience like from the outside. I'm not in the drag
Mhm.
community, but from the outside, I love experiencing it for you guys because then I can just be like, I'm watching this happen, and you guys you don't see it happening until like 10 years later. You're gonna look back and be like, oh my gosh, remember how it used to be? But like,
Yeah.
I'm watching it unfold right now, and like honestly, that brings me to another point that I wanted to ask you about too with the infighting. There's a lot of infighting. I feel like we were just talking about this today, is I feel like it's going to be an uptick of infighting because we're seeing so much that is attacking our community. It feels like there's going to be this, well, I'm going to separate myself from the community so I can see if I can protect myself. Or I'm going to look down on this part of the community because, well, they're the reason that we are where we are, or whatever it is. um, how do you see infighting and what do you do to combat it?
Yeah, it's a good and loaded question.
Sorry.
No, I think it's great because not the infighting, the question. Um, to be clear. Um, So yeah, first of all, I do not engage. Um, I That's not to say I don't have disagreements with people, because I do, and sometimes we're gonna have disagreements with people that are not reconcilable, and that's because we're humans and it's gonna happen and whatever. So I had one of those recently, um, but I think the key is, one, I need people to stop arguing on the internet with each other
No, for
about
real.
issues in the community. Why are we doing that? Why are we? I mean, now don't get me wrong. I can be petty on the internet too. Okay. But what I'm not doing is arguing with people in my comment section. We can talk, we can debate. I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
One, I don't have time. Two, I'm not 12. So I don't understand. So I think what really needs to happen is we have to develop better conflict resolution skills as a
Yeah.
community. We have to do that. We have to talk to each other. And I don't know about you guys, but I see the people on the internet that I see fighting live in the same cities or live close enough to each other that they can just meet somewhere like, hey, bitch, let's go get coffee and talk this out.
No, for real.
Yeah,
I thought you were about to say,
what?
like, meet me out back.
That's kind of
Right.
where
I mean, catch me
like to think.
outside, sure, but like, let's do this in person, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just can't wrap my head around it. And most of the time, I would say 7 out of 10 arguments I see on Facebook or Instagram or whatever is stupid shit. It's
Yeah.
just stupid shit.
So real.
I
Stop
agree.
doing that.
I know.
We have so much to focus on.
We do.
And if we could put all of that energy into really collectively challenging all of the challenges that are facing us, we would be in such a better position as local communities. Like, you've got me on a soapbox. And
That
Stay up there. We got you.
yeah. This is one of those things that we've talked about so much too. And just like the sad reality of like, that's one thing that I feel like at times the more conservative communities, you could say, have on us is a lot of times it feels like more united and less like, oh, like you're not doing enough or you're not doing XYZ. So like, I'm going to like ostracize you or cancel you or be done with you. Which can be really bad in the liberal community, I feel at times.
Yeah, it's very much if you're not perfect, then you're not enough. Instead of you are on the same side as me and we're working towards the same goal.
I think it's easier to hate in a common direction than it is to advocate in a common direction. And I think that's because people do not understand that every marginalized community, women, people of color, queer people, disabled people, immigrants, the elderly, all of us, we are all fighting the same fucking oppressor. But it's hard for people to see that because, one, I think people are so focused like on their own issue, right? Like people get so one-track minded, I guess. More queer people than I can tell you don't understand that queer liberation is inherently tied to anti-racism, right? Like all of those things we have to do all of those things at the same time. And I don't think people are I don't mean this as negatively it's going to sound. People, I don't think are educated well enough to understand that. Um, 2, there are some people who just absolutely don't care, and that's unfortunate, but it exists. 3, I think people get overwhelmed and they wonder, how can we fight all of these things at the same time? And we can do that by understanding that we're all fighting the same system. Building community, making space for people, uplifting people, and all of these things are going to help all of us. And I just don't think that people understand that. But it's really easy for conservative people to look at trans people and say, we all hate trans people, right?
Yeah.
That's a very common, easy thing for them to do.
Yeah. I'm glad that you made that point too, because it really, and that's something that was kind of like brewing in the back of my mind too, this whole conversation is just thinking about where it comes from, like the infighting and like, the lack of conflict resolution, that queer people often have. And a lot of it, when you really think about it, is like, a lot of the queer community has disheveled kind of relationships with their family, which also means that maybe you weren't taught everything that some other people were taught. So it kind of does make sense when we look at it in like a bigger picture sense of like, okay, it makes sense that a lot of us don't have great conflict resolution because a lot of us probably weren't really taught that or weren't shown that, from even just coming out with our family and stuff.
Yeah. And honestly, like whenever you were talking about people being stupid on Facebook, the first thing that popped in my mind was like, I feel like sometimes people are like, well, I don't know what I can do for this big thing, right? Like there's nothing I can do for this, but this person here did something that upset me. So I'm just going to yell at them instead of being like, well, this person upset me. Let me try and repair that conversation or that relationship with them so that we can go against the real reason we were both upset, which is because society told me that trans people are taking my rights away. Like we're all suffering from the same issue, like you said. And I love that you literally brought it full circle. So it's like the first thing you talked about, it doesn't bring, it's like, oh, here we go. We're right back.
Well, and you bring up a good point too. I think another component of this is that people are really overwhelmed right now, and people are really anxious, and people are really afraid. And sometimes these tiny arguments are those fears and anxieties realized. And I think that self-awareness is really important. I try so hard um, with people on the internet and people in real life. I try not to take out all of the frustration and the fear and the anxiety that I feel all the time. Now, I may cuss somebody out on the highway from inside my car, but I try really hard not to do what so many people are doing on the internet and take it out on one another. Um, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's a big fracture in our community. It weakens us, and if all we're doing is arguing on the internet to hear ourselves talk, then we're not really solving anything. So now, not only have we kind of ostracized ourselves from our community members, but we haven't actually fixed the thing that pissed us off. So where do we go from there?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Right.
Very
So what are your stress relief tactics whenever, because like obviously you have to have some if you're able to not blow up on everyone. So, so what are yours?
Yelling at people in traffic.
That's
No, so this after our conversation about religion, you're probably going to look at me sideways when I say this, but hang with me. So I took up meditation,
Mm.
and I have come to realize that there is a way to meditate that is not rooted in like religion and spirituality and things like this. I didn't really realize this. May sound naive, but I didn't really realize this. But anyway, I've started meditating. It is very helpful. It makes me feel like a normal human being who doesn't want to hit people. Um,
Important.
and it's also I have underestimated the value of setting aside. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes, but setting aside 5, 10, 15 minutes to do nothing,
Mm.
to not hear the noise, to not see the news, you know, to not be inundated with all of my responsibilities. So I think if anyone is looking for a way to just manage your anxiety, manage your stress, even if it's not meditation, um, I don't know, take a 5 minute walk, 10 minute walk, walk to the end of your street and back, something to to just walk away from it because it's a lot right now. But yeah, that and yelling at people in traffic. That's I cannot over what is the word I'm looking for? I can't overemphasize how helpful it is to yell in your car.
I love how you
also
ask for a word and we're both sitting here like, word. It's so late.
no, literally past 3 p.m. My brain is like,
And my brain's been off for like 5 hours.
it's bad.
That's valid.
But we're here. No, yeah, and meditation is so powerful. That's one of the things that I also struggle to like stay on routine with, but when I do, every time, it's
Mhm.
always like just such an insane difference.
Yeah.
There's just so much power in it. And honestly, I'm glad that you did bring up the point of like you can do it without it being spiritual. Because I think even like for me, like I'm more of like a spiritual woo-woo kind of person. So like it's easy for me to lean into that side. But so I guess I hadn't really thought about it like, okay, this can be not like that
Mhm.
also. It can just be like, okay, I'm taking time and taking a breath. Like my partner would honestly really benefit from that perspective. So thank you. Because I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to be like,
There's some really great research about meditation and like the psychological benefits for meditating. And unfortunately, this some of this research is rooted in some research that was conducted by this really terrible transphobic academic who I loved for many years. He was monumental in my deconstruction process, and when I found out he was transphobic, I was heartbroken. But I thought back to him and that research when I started meditating, and I was like, well, he's right about this at least. Morbid human being, but you know.
Ooh, that actually brings me to a question that like I would love to ask honestly both of you. Okay, so how do you feel about separating the artist from the art in the sense, okay, because you know where I'm going with this. Obviously, we have J.K. Rowling, which she's still alive, so like I understand obviously if you are still buying stuff, then you are supporting that idiocy. But like I'm thinking of people who aren't still with us, right? Like you're not benefiting them by buying their stuff or learning from things that were accurate, like this person that you're talking about. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I I don't know. I think like it's a line, right? I think there's certain things like, especially like research and stuff, like what you were talking about, Sean. Like I feel like that's a little different, right? Because I don't know, you're like, okay, this is kind of like,
Separated?
I don't know, in my head, like it's a little bit different than art.
Okay.
So like you could pull from it. Oh, sorry. Um, and but when it comes to art, I feel like for me it's hard because even though I'm like, oh, maybe I like this, if it's something like J.K. Rowling, for example, like I did grow up on Harry Potter, like
Mm-hmm.
the nostalgia, I'm like okay with it. Now I just couldn't ever buy anything and like wear it
Right.
because I would just instantly kind of feel like, oh, now I'm going to be perceived this way. But also, I just like, I don't know, I wouldn't want to support her anyway.
Mhm.
So I guess it's like hard for me personally.
That's kind of where I'm at. So
Um,
Yeah. No, that's valid. I think as far as like people who are still living and benefiting from things, I think I just tend to think like we're kind of past that, right? Like we're past making too many excuses for people who are actively engaging in behavior that is hurting people. So like a figure like J.K. Rowling, we know she is pouring money into anti-trans legislation, right? So it doesn't make sense to me to buy anything that's going to give her money
yeah.
because then I know that I'm directly harming someone that's in the community that I claim to advocate for.
Mhm.
That feels icky to me. So I'm
yeah.
not going to do it. Um, it does get, I think, a little tough. Like my favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz, and for anyone who doesn't know, The Wizard of Oz is based on a book by L. Frank Baum. There are 14 of those books, and I loved them growing up. Um, he was a racist. Like he was not a good person, right? The nostalgia of The Wizard of Oz, what it has meant to me throughout my life, that story, I it is hard for me to separate from that because it's been such an an integral part of my life and my development and my identity and all these things. So it's like, can I separate the art from the artist in this case? What I find happens with me is sometimes I just kind of naturally start to become disinterested in things that have been produced by shitty people. And that has kind of happened with The Wizard of Oz. I think the only reason that hasn't happened fully is because The Wizard of Oz, through through other works like Wicked, for example, has been reclaimed in such a way that it's now doing the opposite of what L. Frank Baum was as a person.
Mhm.
And I think there's value in that also. So I
Okay.
don't know. It's complicated, I guess.
So what I'm hearing is that if they're still alive, we don't want to support them, obviously. If they're not still alive, it's hopefully we can reclaim it and still like kind of learn some things from it, but like ultimately it's a gray area and it probably depends on the person.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay,
Yeah.
go us. We're solving the
Oh
world's
my God.
problems
Yeah.
one topic
Absolutely.
at a
Mm.
time.
Absolutely.
I also just think sorry, my dog, if you've heard him in the background, I don't know if you can hear him, but
I don't think
he's
it's not
killing
popping
me.
up.
Um
Mine was
sorry.
barking earlier too, so.
Well, we couldn't hear that either. There you go.
Oh,
What was I gonna say?
I don't know.
If you have something, take it away. Because my
Well, now I was on your topic and I don't know what it was.
my thought left me.
What's your favorite color? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. It came back. I think there's something to like accepting that something was like formative to you, right? And letting it hold like a place in your life versus like still supporting it. So I guess like that's kind of how I feel about like Harry Potter. Like if I'm being quite honest, also, I really loved Jeffree Star. I do not like Jeffree Star. I think he's a morbid, awful person. But like the beginning of my whole makeup journey and learning makeup was all kind of because of him and like deconstructing my own gender and like being okay being more somewhere in the middle was all kind of because of him. So like there's still like that place that's like, okay, this person helped form me in some way. But like I also acknowledge that like there's all these other toxic attributes. So I don't really support them now or have anything, that's like theirs.
Yeah. And also kind of like everyone that existed before, I don't know, an indeterminate amount of time, but like maybe like 1950s, anybody that existed before that, if we just like plopped them into now, they'd be so problematic. So like no matter what, everything that we have from history is going to be a little bit of that gray area. It's just how bad and which topics are like more important, like which topics were like worse, or like did they actually actively support it, or were they just idiots, like.
Yeah. Well, I think you bring up a good point, because I think it's really important to contextualize, right? Like nothing exists in a vacuum, and we have to consider, and I even say this about conservative people now, we have to consider that people are products of something. Does that give you the right to be a shitty person? No, especially not in 2025. But a certain amount of hostility towards certain marginalized populations, it is going it's going to exist in people who are raised by certain people and who live in certain areas, etc. And I think we have to keep that in mind historically too, because you're right. I mean, if we plopped anybody from probably 1960s and back, like they're going to be a shitty person in some regard, whether or not they hate immigrants or women or queer people or whatever. So it would be we'd be hard pressed to find someone who existed in that period of time who's like, I love everyone. It doesn't matter who they are, what they do. I just love them. That person probably didn't really exist.
Or they did, and they got put in an insane asylum because they were too happy.
Right. Yeah, we'll never know if they existed.
We'll never know.
Yeah, it really does go down to conditioning. Just to echo that. Yeah.
I thought there was more.
No, I thought there was too. But
it's too late. We are close to an hour, so we have two important questions from our previous person, or not previous, but like other I don't know.
So weird.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna start that sentence over. We have two important questions from our other co-host that isn't able to be here today because she is at work. But before I ask those questions, that was just a reminder for me to remember them. I wanted to see if there's anything else that you wanted to plug, like your socials or anything for InQlusion, anything.
Yeah, I mean, if for those who are still on Meta, InQlusion, it is still currently on Meta. We're trying to navigate away from Meta. But for the time being, we're there. So you can find us at InQlusion Inc. on Facebook and Instagram, and that's InQlusion Inc. But yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me personally, you can find me on Instagram. Who am I on Instagram? I am not 100% sure.
I think it's just Sean Roach. I don't think there's. Maybe it's Shondale Roach.
Shondale Roach. You can find me. Okay, Instagram is Socio Nerd. SOCIO Nerd 88. You can also find me on Patreon, Sean D. Roach Author. And you can find me on TikTok as the Academic Drag Queen. And I would probably benefit from just making the same handle for all of my socials. I've never had to say them back to back.
Actually, that's one of the things that Cowie was very dead set on whenever we first got started, was like,
Yeah.
all of them need to be the same. And I was like, okay.
That was so fucking much.
It's okay, because like anybody that's older than like 25 probably started these things at different times in our lives. So that's
Yeah.
why. That's the answer. It's not our fault.
That was a way of saying you're an old fart using social media.
I'm right there with you. Literally. I'm right there
Are
with
you really? I never would have guessed.
Yeah. They're all
great.
crazy.
Not they're all.
That's bad.
It's fine.
Anyway.
Everything's fine.
Do you want to ask the Megan question?
Oh yeah, I can.
Okay.
So the questions that Megan often asks. So she's a chef. So one day we want to have like a little mukbang kind of. You come back, we chit chat, make food. So the questions are: what is your preferred way to eat a potato, and what is your favorite / last meal?
Listen, the potato question is serious, okay?
I wish
Because
Megan was here.
I will eat potatoes in absolutely any fucking form you give them to me. Okay? Mashed potatoes, French fries, baked potatoes, tater tots, all like scalloped potato. I don't care, raw potato. I love
That's what I was about to say.
okay. I love them so much. If I had to pick just one though, it probably would be mashed potatoes. Just love. I make good mashed potatoes too.
How do you season them? Is it just like salt, pepper, butter, sour cream? What do you do?
Salt, pepper, garlic. I put a little cayenne pepper because I like a little kick. Yeah. I love seasoning. I for the record, not that anybody asked me this question, but for the record, I am not one of those white people who does not season his food. Okay. All the seasoning. What was the other question? I was really excited.
Like, what's your favorite meal or like last meal? Like, what would your last meal?
Don't I don't remember the last thing I ate. What did I?
No,
like
if
your
you could
favorite,
only have one thing,
like your
Oh, I
favorite,
it's the
like
last thing. You can have.
ideal last meal, like you're on death row.
I see. Like if I okay, yeah. All right. Oh God, this question is really hard. Sushi.
This is really hard. Sushi.
No, same. Because it's always
I just had to land somewhere. I will eat sushi every day though. Sushi and potatoes. Like I'm
work.
So sushi and potatoes together every single
She's
meal.
cultured but Southern, and
Yeah.
I live for that.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I
That
love this.
also, not circling back to the potato, but like, have you had like, were you one of those kids that like, listen, so I grew up really Southern in Northeast Tennessee, and when I would go over to like my dad's parents' house, so my grandpa, they would always try to like feed me raw potatoes with salt on it, and they would like pill them and like, yeah. Were you one of those kids?
Nobody was feeding them to me. I was just
Just
doing
taking
it
bites?
myself. Yeah, and I have a very distinct memory. We're at time, I know, but I was at a very I have a very distinct memory of like eating a raw onion. Also, like I would just eat raw stuff, like
My dad
like
does that like an apple.
like an apple. Yeah.
I live.
Yeah.
You know, I do love a good onion though. Like, I have to be honest.
Yeah. I was also just kind of a fucking weird kid, so nothing has changed.
My thing was butter. I love butter. My brother's 7 years older than me. Okay. And like, we would literally go get butter on sourdough toast that my mom would make and lick off the butter and then just be like, can we have more butter?
That's crazy. That's so funny.
I also love butter, so
It's where the flavor is.
this conversation became unhinged very quickly.
Yeah. You should. Oh my God. No, wait. You have to listen to the episode with Megan in it whenever it comes out, because that's the one we did yesterday. And we just had, all three of us with our ADHD. It did not make any sense.
But
It was the best though.
Can't wait.
no, this was honestly a pleasure. It's been so nice to like get to know you,
Mhm.
and I don't know, you genuinely just have such a good energy.
You're calm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have never been called calm.
Oh. Well, you are.
First time. Love that. No, I've loved this. This was great. Thank you for inviting me to be here. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for doing everything you do. Thank you so much for joining us all in this episode of the Queer Vision podcast. Please do not forget to follow InQlusion Incorporated on Facebook and Instagram. Their at is InQlusionInc on both of those. And then go support Sean. His Instagram is socionerd88, SOCIONERD88 on Instagram. And he is Sean D. Roach, author on Patreon and academic drag queen on TikTok. So thank you so much for supporting us and for supporting him. I hope you found this episode as enlightening as I did, and I hope it motivated you to do some good in this world. So thank you so much. Have a really good day. Bye.